Thank you very much, Paulo. So I'll get started. I see we have a small group, so that's great. So we can have really small but intense discussion, I guess. As I already told Paulo at the very beginning, before the meeting started, this is the sort of work in progress that's slowly progressing to a working paper shape. So I would really like to hear what you guys think of the model, of the empirical results, of the experiment design, and so on and so forth. So feel free to criticize and give me feedback, or express your concerns and comments, questions. So this work is a joint work with Teodor, Serge, Samuel, and Alberto. So you see, we are a big authors group. So the reason is that we were collaborating with SwissQuote. Serge and Teodor, they're from SwissQuote. This piece entails modeling work and also quite intensive empirical work. So we had some data from SwissQuote, and Serge and Teodor, they have been extremely helpful with giving us the data, cleaning up the data, and help doing some preliminary analysis. So Samian was my supervisor when I was doing my postdoc at EPFL. He's a professor at Swiss Finance Institute. His background is a mathematician. The reason why I'm mentioning that is that you'll see that there's quite intensive mathematical modeling later on in a bit. So Alberto was the previous PhD student of Samian, and they did some preliminary work, or the skeleton of the paper, which I then took over when I started my postdoc position under Samian. So that's just a bit of background of this paper. So let's jump into the content. So before I start to introduce the content of the paper, I want to just do two very quick surveys, just to see if the sentiment of the audience, you guys, align with our empirical findings. Or modeling findings even. So the survey number one is, imagine you are a stock trader and you have been performing extremely well during the last year. Now you wonder whether to keep trading or exit. So my question to you guys is, would you be more likely to exit if you A, have been trading for a long time, say 10 years, or B, you are only a sort of like an amateur and you've been trading for 2 years? So would you maybe indicate your preference by, I don't know, either just shouting out the answer, or use this, I don't know, use the chat function? B. Oh, B. Oh, great. Okay. So you'll be more likely to exit if you are a young trader, and you will be less likely to exit if you are a seasoned trader. Okay, that's very, very good. Let me also mark this. So this is the majority answer. Good. Okay, the next question is also quite similar, but in this case, everything else is the same with the first survey. However, your past performance changed. So instead of being a very profitable trader, you are actually a big loser. So you have very, very bad historical performance, and all other things equal, you will be more likely to exit if you have been trading for 10 years or if you have been trading for only 2 years. If you may. Just to break this. Okay, also B. Okay, great. Survey number. Okay, great. That's actually really aligns with our empirical finding. I can show you straight away. So the empirical finding is that regardless of your past performance, whether it is extremely good or extremely bad or in the middle, we see that people with a long age, more experienced traders, they are always less likely to exit. So if you just look at this graph right now, so here we have on the right hand side, let's annotate real quick, highest performance, and this is the lowest. So basically, each picture shows a sort of like a return cohort. And you can see that just by eyeballing, you can see that the red line, the red cohort is always above the blue line, and then the blue line is always above the black line. So what does that mean? So let me just zoom up real quick. So here on the y-axis, it shows the exit rate. So exactly like the survey we just pulled out at the beginning of this presentation, the empirical evidence shows that the older you are, regardless of your past return, the older you are, the less likely you are to exit trading. So this, we call this kind of phenomenon, we call it trading inertia. We just coined this term for this paper, or like exit procrastination. And this kind of procrastination also exists in other scenarios. So this has been described as Lindy's law already a few decades back. I don't know if you guys have heard of this expression, Lindy's law. So Lindy's law is basically saying that the longevity of an object is negatively correlated with the existing lifetime. So basically, it's saying that the longer you are in a state, in a pool, then the more likely that you're going to stay in the pool. So it basically describes this inertia phenomenon. It's first used to describe media exposure. So basically, to describe a celebrity is more likely to be further exposed by media if it's been already exposed a lot by the media. So basically, that's Lindy's law. So we see something very similar in traders' behavior. And the purpose of the study is exactly to find a model and to sort of justify this kind of behavior, to model this kind of trading inertia. And yeah, and later on in the presentation, we'll describe the model a little bit more in detail. So here I picked out a few articles that are most relevant to this study. So Seru 2010, this is the piece from a review of financial studies. This is the most relevant one. So they were also modeling the learning capabilities of traders, and they found out that there are essentially two types of the traders. The first type, they learn basically, and they'll improve their performance. And the second type, they do not learn, and then they'll just stop. They'll cease to trade. This is an extremely important empirical evidence that we're gonna later on borrow when we model our traders' behavior. And then we also see that, you know, traders, they essentially learn and they can improve based on their past experience. And we can also see from past literature, this one, Gervais and Odin, saying that they do not just learn to improve their trading behavior. There's a difference between this type of learning from Nicolosi and the type of learning from Odin. So this type of learning is learning to improve, whereas this type of learning is learning to realize. And this is also very important, fundamental for our modeling later on. So learning to improve means that your performance will get better. Learning to realize means that you might be unskilled at the very beginning, but based on your past performance, you learn to realize that you update your belief, and you learn to realize that, okay, you are actually an unskilled trader, and then you would cease to trade. So all this literature really form the solid foundation of our model assumptions. Yes, and then last but not least, Schroeder. She found that young investors trade more frequently but obtain lower returns. This trading frequency that has been modeled in the initial version of the paper, but in this presentation, I will not go too deep in trading frequency. Okay, so please feel free to ask questions and to interrupt me if there's anything that's unclear. Otherwise, I'll just move on. So the sample we're using here is a big data collection from one of the biggest retail stock trading platform in Switzerland. As I mentioned, it's Swissquote. We're not going to necessarily disclose that in the paper, but you can sort of guess that from the affiliation of the authors. So that's the data from Swissquote. We have in total more than 80,000 traders. Their status, if they have been remaining in the pool or in the trading pool, or if they have exited. And we also have traders activity, buy or sell. And we also have their daily account value, which is essential for us to calculate their the trader's performance. In the paper, we detailed the intricacies of calculating traders' performance because it's not just like the performance of one single stock. Traders have a portfolio, and they sometimes cash in and they withdraw cash. So it's extremely actually complicated to understand what is the trader's performance during a certain period of time, let's say 1 year, because you have position move again, and then you have cash in, cash out, you have interest income, you have stock transfer, and so on and so forth. This has all been detailed in the paper, so I'm not going to spend too much time on this. But yeah, so we did use account value to calculate traders' empirical performance. So the model, how do we model this traders' trading inertia behavior that we described at the beginning of the presentation, and also has been demonstrated by the survey result, or quick survey result. So the model says that our traders can be categorized in two groups. One, very skilled, we just call them the good type, or type G, and the other one is bad type, type B. And that model assumption, again, aligns with, if I may remind you real quick, aligns with the empirical result from CERU, from CERU 2010. So there are two types of traders. One is skilled, the other one is not so skilled. So simple as that. And traders, they do not know their types at the beginning. However, they have a prior belief of whether the trader himself or herself is good or bad. And they update their belief by observing their past performance. So we also assume that for simplification purposes, that trader B will never place successful trades. So their trading performance is just white noise. Whereas trader A, their successful trades, they will arrive at jump times of a time inhomogeneous Poisson process. So we model this trading success in the Poisson process, in the stochastic model. And yeah, and we say that trader G will improve their trading skills with experience, which is why we define this intensity of the Poisson process, FT, as a monotone increasing function. And yeah, last but not least, traders, they will learn to update their belief and gradually realize with more and more certainty which type they belong to. So that again aligns with the, if I may go back to the literature, align with the Odin's, Gervais and Odin's papers. So they develop an assessment of their own trading ability through experience. Okay, I'm just conscious of time. So let's see. I'm gonna go real quick through the review of Poisson process, just as a refresh for those who might not use this time homogeneous Poisson process on a daily basis. So essentially, the FT, we model that as monotone increasing throughout trading age. You will see if we use two numerical examples, simulation examples. So essentially, it will look something like this. So basically, throughout trading age, the number of successes will increase, which is, I believe, quite intuitive, and depends on the specification of the intensity function. The shape will change a little bit, but bottom line is that it's monotone increasing. Again, that's a little bit of fundamentals of time inhomogeneous Poisson process. I will not bore you with that. So evolution of belief, this is quite important as the bottom line of our model. So we basically assume that the trader's decision, the trader's decision tree basically looks like this. So at the beginning, they have some kind of prior belief, which we denote as pi, and then if they are type G, then they will. If they are type G, then the probability of succeed is FT. If the probability of failing is 1 minus FT, and if they're type B, aligning with the assumption, they will never succeed, so the probability is 0, and they will fail for sure. So this is, and so with this kind of sort of like decision tree evolution of belief, you can calculate how the belief of a trader sort of changes throughout time based on the past performance. So just to sum up real quick, if you are a trader, the finding of basically this derivation is that if you're a trader, you place a trade and place a trade, and you trade and trade, and you never succeed, and all of a sudden you get hit by a successful trade, and now you know with certainty that you are type G, so you are a skilled trader. However, if you never receive or you never get hit by a successful trade, then your belief of you yourself being a good trader will gradually decrease. And we model that there is this kind of a lower boundary of the belief, such that when your belief hits that lower boundary, you are exit. So that's the basic idea of the model. So the lower boundary is determined through the value function. So basically, you calculate your expected value based on your belief and based on your past experience, and you form your exit boundaries. So you form your sort of likelihood of being a good trader. So to give you a simple example, let's say I am 1 year old in terms of trading, and I believe that if I've been successful even once, then I know with certainty that I'm a good trader. So that would be 100% good trader. However, if I have never been successful, then at 1 year old, maybe I think that being a good trader, I have still, let's say, 40% of chance of being a good trader and 60% of chance of being a bad trader. And then I keep trading and trading, and after half a year, so now I'm 1.5 years old, I still have not ever succeeded. My belief of myself being a good trader based on the evolution of belief will decrease. So previously it was 40%, then it will diminishes, and it will diminish, and at 1.5 years old, I might have a new belief. I might have established a new belief. So now I believe that there is only 20% of chance that I am a good trader. I also calculate my value function, and I believe that, so when I was 1 year old, I say to myself, okay, the threshold for me to exit is 30%. If I hit 30% of threshold, then I'll exit. So now I still believe that me being a good trader is 40%. So it's greater than my lower boundary, which is 30%, and lower boundary again is calculated through the value function. However, when I'm 1.5 years old, this lower boundary also changes with age. So the lower boundary is also a function of age. So when I'm 1.5 years old, the lower boundary might have changed from 30% to, let's say, 10%, which means I will still retain in the pool, even though my belief has already decreased and has already crossed the initial boundary. But because my lower boundary also changes, I still remain in the pool. I don't know why. Okay, so to can I draw this? Okay, I don't know why it does not work anymore. Okay, let's see if we can do it this way. So this means that, let's say, so let's say the blue line is your current belief. The blue line is your current belief. This is 1 year old, and this is 1.5 years old. The blue line is your current belief. As you never succeeded, your belief will go down like this. However, at the same time, your lower boundary, let's do a red line, your lower boundary will also go down. Which is why at 1.5 years old, you might still remain in the pool, even though you have already hit your initial lower boundary. But because the lower boundary is also a function of age, so you might not exit. So you would exit when your current belief hits the lower boundary. So at this point, when they cross, then you exit. So that's the point in our model that you would exit. I hope it's not all too confusing. If it is, please let me know. So variables and parameters, I think I'll let's see. Yeah, I'll just go quickly through this because I have a few empirical results I want to show within the next 10 minutes. Yeah. So we need to understand how difficult it is to prove the accuracy of the model, because there are a lot of things that will be simply unobservable in the data. For example, we will not be able to observe the success, which is a very sort of like a vague concept to describe performance. We'll not be able to observe success of the trader. We will not be able to observe your true type. We can probably guess from your trading performance, but it's not directly observable. We do not know whether a specific trader is a good type or a bad type. And obviously, we also cannot observe a trader's true belief. So those are all not observable. The observable ones are quite limited. So we can observe whether you exit or not, your exit decision. That's quite simple because we can see from the data whether an account has been closed or whether account remains open. And we can also observe your actual return. So it's not really success. So in the model, we define it in the sort of we simplified it to define the success as discrete instead of continuous. However, in real life, in the real data, what you would observe is not really a discrete binary success or not success. You would observe an actually continuous performance return. What we would also observe is your trading age. This also gets a little bit tricky because you actually do not really know the trading age, because it is possible that the client has already opened the account, let's say in 2010, but the client might have prior trading age in other platforms that you would not know. So we have some data manipulation to determine whether we believe this client is experienced or not. And a simple way to do that is we look at their first trade. If the first trade is to transfer some stocks into the Swissquote Swissquote account, then we believe that they have prior experience. So we remove all those traders. So we calculate trading age as the time between the calendar time elapsed since the opening of the account. Yes, and then we can also see the change of the change in mass, in population of the trading pool. So that's something that we can also observe. Right. So let me just jump quickly to some model prediction. So I just introduce the basic concept of the model. And if you use some concrete numbers to do some simulation, the first model prediction here, or it's not even model prediction, let's say the model simulation result, is that the belief will decrease with trading age. You can derive and you can do simulation. You'll see that belief will decrease with age. Later on, we'll show in an empirical result that translates into people will get more and more tolerant to their poor performance. And the exit likelihood, the simulation result shows that at a young, so for traders, it is more likely to exit at the beginning, but then it gets less likely to exit very soon afterwards. So the general trend is still that the trading age, the older you are, the less likely you would exit. But at the very, very, very beginning, you might just come and go and exit. So it's also quite plausible because nobody will come to a platform, open an account just to exit the next day, right? So it's also quite plausible that at the very, very beginning of your trading career, you would keep trading for a little bit, and then afterwards you will develop this kind of inertia, and you will be more likely to remain in the pool, in the trading pool. So the next prediction, or again the simulation result, is that if you look at a fixed cohort, you will see that. So if you look at a fixed cohort, so for example, if you look at a cohort that all exit at a certain age, let's say exit at age 5, you can sort of observe the performance of the cohort, and you'll see the blue line. And if you look at another cohort with a longer longevity, you will see a better performance from the very beginning. That's also something that we can test. So this is something like we can do from our empirical data that we collected. For example, we can just pick a fixed cohort and look at their longevity when they stop, and then trace their whole performance. So that's something that we can test from the empirical data. So now what I want to show is the empirical result to demonstrate how the empirical evidence supports the model, both the model assumptions and the model simulation result. So first of all, we show that higher trading age is associated with higher performance. So traders, they do learn to trade, so their performance does get better when they get older. So this shows this can be demonstrated in the graph here below, as you can see, conditioned on the calendar time. You'll see that the oldest trading group almost always performs the best, and this result is also statistically significant, which we show in the paper. So yeah, so that's the correlation between basically the return and trading age. So the next one is that we fix a certain cohort and then we just track their performance. Here, the performance we use is the relative rank. The reason we use relative rank instead of absolute return is because we need to fix not fix. We need to eliminate the calendar time effect, because in some days the whole market is performing well, and some days the whole market is not performing well. So we use the relative rank of a trader and then to track their performance. So we see that for a fixed cohort, the shorter their longevity is, you can actually see that the learning curve or the learning speed is actually slower compared to traders with longer longevity, and that also fits perfectly well with our simulation result, which is this slide here. This fixing cohort exercise is extremely important because of the survivorship bias, because in the trading pool, people come and go, and it's very likely when you see, for example, when you see a correlation between highest tertial and the between trading age and return, there are kind of two explanations. One explanation is that people do learn when they get older, but we need to be extremely careful because of survivorship bias, because it is likely that only good people will remain in the pool and bad people will leave. So which is why it's possible that the result is not due to learning, but is due to survivorship bias. So we also need to split those two effects in our empirical results. So which is why in this exercise, we just trace a fixed cohort with a fixed population to make sure that there is no survivorship bias going on. Yeah, so basically we demonstrate that people who survive longer, well, they also learn faster, which also aligns with the simulation result. And I'm just conscious of time. Let's see. Okay, I think I have only 2 more results to show, then I'll shut up. So next, what we are showing is exiting and remaining. What is really the reason for people to exit? And the result is quite obvious, and I think it's quite intuitive. So basically, the reason for somebody to exit is poor performance. So we can do one very simple logic regression and see that exit or remain, this 1, 1, 0, is correlated with the past return. Yes, so we did the logistic regression. We also did another regression, which is Cox proportional hazard regression, to see if return is negatively correlated with the hazard. So this has been heavily used in longevity studies, so survivorship studies, and it also incorporates or takes into consideration the survivorship bias. And we see that the lower return you have, the higher existing sort of hazard, the higher hazard rate it is, so the higher likely you are to exit. So again, this graph we've shown in the very beginning, that the older, the more senior a trader is, the less likely a trader is to exit. So that explains Lindy's law. And we also ran statistical tests. We even split the sample into lower age and the higher age, because as you remember, if I may just go back real quick. As you remember, in the simulation result, we showed that at the very beginning, the traders would remain in the pool a little bit. Again, that's intuitive because you wouldn't open an account just to exit the next day. So it does take a little bit time for you to hit your exit boundary. But then, which is why the exit likelihood is low. But then and then the exit likelihood gets high, but then gets low again, which correlates to the which negatively correlates to the trading age. That is because of the trading inertia. So basically, the longer you are in the pool, the less likely you would like to drop. So this has also been shown. There's two different shapes, divided by age threshold. That kind of correlation is also shown in the statistical results. So basically, when you're very young, there's a high likelihood. When you're young, there is a positive correlation between trading age and exit likelihood, where when you pass the threshold, the relationship turns into negative. The higher, the older you are, then the less likely you would exit the trading pool. I think that's pretty much it. Yeah, the last result is basically to show that the last result is basically to show that the tolerance, like we said, the downward sloping lower boundary of your belief in that, of your confidence. So we're seeing that by testing whether you become more and more tolerant of your past trading performance. We show that indeed empirical data shows that traders, when they get older, they get more tolerant to their past performance. So when they get younger, their exit performance at their exit is actually higher than when they get older, the exit performance, which means that in aggregate, when traders get older, their tolerance, the way they tolerate their bad performance also increases. So that kind of mirrors the model simulation result, that the lower boundary of the confidence also gets also drops, and it decreases and decreases. So yeah, so that's that. So the main takeaway is that experienced traders perform on average better than inexperienced traders. That's learning to trade. And the next one is basically that there's a downward sloping exit boundaries, such that the traders will get more and more tolerant of their past performance. And as a trader gets older, there's a trading inertia, that the trading pool would exhibit some kind of Lindy's law. So yeah, that's that. I think I jammed a lot of content in this short presentation, but Please let me know if you have questions, comments on the model, on both the model and the empirical results and the experiment design.